Welcome everybody to the Depths of Motherhood podcast. This is a special season dedicated to the tribe of the mother, but also I know any mothers listening will find this extremely valuable. I've created each episode to offer simple, digestible, and supportive information, which I hope will educate and inspire anyone who listens. So this is by popular demand. Please help us to educate and support the tribe holding the mother. Look forward to passionate and highly knowledgeable guests dedicated to reclaiming the essence of birth and embracing conscious parenting. Throughout our time together, our guests will serve as the guiding voices, illuminating the path towards a deeper understanding of preconception, pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. This is with the mother and the baby being the center of the exploration. In the show notes, you'll discover the link to Nourish Mother package, which will offer many different resources to complement each episode. This is free for all members in the Women's Circle, or £33 for everybody who just wants to purchase the package. A heartfelt thank you to our incredible guests and immense gratitude to my partner for supporting me on this creation. And finally, last but not least, special thank you to Araya, my daughter, for being the endless well of inspiration. Welcome everybody. Today we move into our postpartum section of the season. We have 10 incredible conversations to come, and this will be exploring the fundamental needs of a postpartum mother and the postpartum family. Today, Jay is joining us. She is a herbalist, a forager, and a menstrual cycle educator, and also a doula. She received the call to explore various paths of body sovereignty and well-being. And over the years, Jay has studied under many respected teachers, including the School of Evolutionary Herbalism, Aviva Romm, Rosemary Gladstar, and Elaine Soloway. Through foraging wild foods, medicine making, and tracking her menstrual cycle, Jay created Plant Healing Woman, a place where she could honor the wisdom of plants, female bodies, and ancestral knowledge. Today we'll be exploring the use of herbs as allies during the postpartum phase. And Jay shares in such a beautiful way that will bring peace to your mind. She emphasizes how we can do this with the plants around us, so we can let go of the stress of trying to gather herbs from all around the world. And another important point that she makes is it has to taste good to us, trusting in our taste buds so that we can really receive this herb with so much delight. Jay guides us on how we can use herbs, from teas to yoni steams to tinctures, to receive the most benefits. And as with most of the conversations that we're having here, there is this guidance back to our intuition, back to this present moment, to really listen to messages from our body so we can choose the herb that we'd like to welcome in. And we can come into this co-creation with this herb with so much gratitude. And all Jay's information can be found in the show notes. So come on in and let's be inspired by this beautiful conversation that brings us back to ourselves and back to nature, remembering the ancient wisdom that lives within our bones. Maybe you're not in your postpartum phase yet, so this is inspiration for you to prepare, or maybe you're years down the line. These postpartum rituals can be reclaimed at any time from the support of our plant friends. Okay, let's take a deep breath in. And if it feels good for you, notice how the breath can move within your body. Feeling the movements radiating along your spine and then dancing out to your arms and your fingers and down your legs. Coming to soften in to the body to receive each breath with love and appreciation. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Jay for sharing her wisdom and her time. Join us on the show. Welcome.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And this is our second time that we've done some recording online, and we were just trying to work out when it was we last saw each other and how many countries I've been to in between that. So here we are. I'm in the UK and you are?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado.
Wow. Isn't it incredible that we can do this from such a long distance? Amazing.
Really?
Blows my mind. So let us get straight into these questions. These are some of the main ones that have come through from friends and families, of mothers wanting to support the mother more deeply, but really finding it like there's so much information out there. So where to begin? So with these questions, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to have you have some tools to work with so that you can support the mothers in your life. So Jay, what would you say is, in your opinion, the most nourishing postpartum tea blend? This is evening for me, so I'm trying to spit my words out. The most nourishing postpartum tea blend, and how often should mothers be drinking it or trying to include it in their day?
So before I get into like the essence of my answer, I want to start by saying that like thank God we have so many different nourishing herbs to work with. And it can feel like if you look up online, everybody's going to be like yelling at you and telling you a lot of different herbs. And the truth is that there's a lot of different herbs that you can work with. And before I share my answer, I want to add the caveat that there's really not one perfect tea blend, and that whatever herbs you can get access to that you feel an affinity to, that feels easy and accessible, go that. I know that motherhood is so tiring and can be a huge, huge shift in terms of what you have to balance with your time and the lack of time that you have for yourself. So whatever is the easiest, please do. That's the first and foremost. And I personally think that one of the best tea blends, especially for this time of the year, fall, winter, while it's still cold, would be an adaptogenic, caffeine-free herbal chai. So most of the time chais have black tea in it, right? But I find that caffeine can actually overstimulate the cortisol levels and perpetuate more burnout over time, even though it feels really good in the moment. And so I would actually recommend to take out the caffeine. And let's just unpack the word adaptogenic for a second. So as the word sounds, it means adapt. So it helps our body adapt to stressful situations. Over time, when we take it consistently, various different adaptogenic herbs help reduce our stress levels, our cortisol. It helps keep our cortisol levels balanced. For those of you who are familiar with like nervous system awareness, the more regular and consistent your cortisol level are, the more secure and stable your nervous system is going to feel. So let's just let that sink in. And there's so many different adaptogenic herbs, but let's first get into the chai. So some herbs that make chai really delicious are fennel, cardamom, black peppercorn, ginger, cinnamon. And then you get to basically add whatever herbs you feel a calling to. In my shop, I make an adaptogenic chai blend. I actually have it right here. And also has star anise and bunch of other herbs. So what I chose to do is I added some of my favorite adaptogenic herbs, such as tulsi, also known as holy basil. And I also added astragalus root. Those two I added for consistent nourishing of the blood. That's what astragalus root does. It's like a deep nourishing yin herb. And then I added tulsi because it's delicious and it adds this like floral hint to it. And then I also played around and I decided to add sarsaparilla root, which is a root that's based in South America that tastes a little bit like root beer or like vanilla. It has like this creamy vanilla flavor. And I'm just sharing with you what I did to show you that like the world is your oyster, right? The goal is that this tea blend tastes amazing, that it's so delicious that you crave it, right? Because if it tastes like shit, it's going to feel like a burden. And already with motherhood, there's a lot of things that could feel like a burden. So let this tea blend be delicious for you. If you're not a ginger type of gal, make it more cinnamony. If you really love fennel, but you hate cardamom, like adjust the ratios to your liking. And because it has a lot of roots in it, oftentimes chai, the herbal the herbs inside chai are very rooty. You want to have it on the stovetop infusing for at least 30 to 50 minutes, right? So like in the morning, you wake up, you're probably breastfeeding already. As you're breastfeeding, if you can, if your nipples are not in too much pain, just throw the hot water on the pot with some herbs and just let it go for a very long time. The longer that you let the herbs in the pot, the more delicious and tasty it'll be. And then you get to flavor to your liking. I'm a raw milk type of girl. Some people are oat milk, right? So just add a little bit of the milk to your liking. And I would recommend not using processed sugars, but rather like maple syrup or honey, because those will help sustain your energy levels, right? We're thinking all about this in the context of emotional support. And then as we take it consistently, we're thinking about how are we nourishing and giving back to our body, right? And then the question about how often, realistically, try your best every day. And if you can't, that's okay. Like the plants are always going to be there to support you when you can call on them. It's best to drink it daily, but if drinking it daily would feel stressful and adds a level of like work to your life, then just allow that expectation to just leave. But in terms of, we talk about dosages, right? We think of, oh, just a cup of tea. And in actuality, 3 cups of tea are equivalent to like 1 proper dosage. So if you really like it, try to get a mug that is able to hold, 3 cups of tea, so that you're not like pouring it into your mug. Drink, that just adds another layer of work. And again, the goal is that you can modify the chai blend to your liking so that the flavor is exactly what you want, right? So maybe one week you're really into cinnamon, the other week you really want cardamom. You get to change it up. But I do recommend that you kind of like have fun, give yourself like a 20-minute time where you make the blend for yourself so that you don't have to be making it every single day. It's already made for you and you're just taking a tablespoon of the herbs and dumping it in. So that's what I would say, because so often when we think about postpartum tea blends, often herbs like nettle or raspberry leaf come into the picture. And those are wonderful. They're really great for receiving a lot of nutrients, especially as you're releasing so much through your milk. But in my opinion, almost everybody doesn't find them as tasty as other herbs, right? So like maybe what you want to do is add a little bit of nettle to your chai, right? So you're getting that nourishing nettle, but you're not really tasting it, right? Nettle is a flavor that our bodies typically yearn for during spring. So if you're finding yourself to be a new mother during the springtime, go ahead and like drink a lot of nettle infusions. But if you're having this baby in the cocooning time of the year, then I recommend like warming herbs like chai blend. Yeah.
Feel like I can smell it in this room right now. I'm going to make this as soon as we finish on the conversation. I'm craving that right now because we're in the winter and it sounds so delicious. Yeah. Put some maple syrup in. Yes, please. And I've got my new frother as well. So a bit of milk. Oh, it's going to be tasty.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great gift as well. I was thinking, like you could make this blend up, put it together in a jar and offer it to the mother as a gift if you're not living in the household. Bring that round with you.
Definitely.
So I remember when I was in postpartum, I used to have like a big flask and I'd make my tea in the morning and I would just keep going back to it. So it would be nice and warm and I wouldn't have to deal with it. Because it sounds like nothing, like, oh, I'm just making a tea. But like you say, it's another thing on the list to do. So just get it prepared and then you can go back and have a little sip and then get on with your
if you're the partner or a husband of a woman, make it for her. There's nothing that women want more than the feeling of like going to a cafe and getting a drink for free, except being in their house, right? Like getting delicious drinks is a huge source of comfort. Like women will spend a lot of money on it. So just make her feel like she gets to have that experience of going to her local bakery or cafe, but just make it for her.
Yeah, put some sprinkles on top, some cinnamon or some cacao sprinkles on top of that. She's gonna love it.
That sounds great.
So on to supporting your womb. What herbs would you say are best to welcome in this time?
Well, so I want to add that every single woman is going to have a different experience depending on what type of birth she had, right? If she had a vaginal birth, then maybe what she's experiencing is pains or tenderness in her vaginal area and in her perineal, right? But if she had a C-section, then maybe her vulva and vagina is actually feeling okay. And it's really her belly that's needing tending to. So first ask yourself, like, what type of birth did I have? And what did I feel the most during my birth? Like, what core fears came up? What core emotions arrived for me? Some women have like tremendous levels of anger released in their birth. And that those key emotions that come up during the birth play a healing in the postpartum time, right? We want to think about herbs as allies in response to what our body is telling us. But let's say you had a vaginal birth. So first thing is really honor that for the first few weeks of the postpartum, at least like typically the first 40 days, to not have anything coming inside your vaginal canal unless you really want it. So that includes a tampon if you're still bleeding, or a finger, or a penis, or a dildo. Really honor it as a time of the more you invest in the short term for the healing, the more you'll be able to experience very long term, especially if your goal is to be able to return to the maiden that you were, which I'll let you know won't happen. But if you have that like expectation, investing in like the healing in the first 40 days is really important. And I find that like gentle massages on the vulva is really supportive, especially like around the inner thighs and on the womb. And you want to be careful to not have any essential oils in your oil blend, because that can really disrupt your pH level. And anything that could shift your pH of your skin can alter your baby's perception of how you smell. And the smell between the mother and the baby, as we know, is so vital. And the baby oftentimes knows who and where the mother is in the room based off of smell. They have an incredible amount of smell. So if we can keep our natural smell as much as we can and use more natural oils, that could be really supportive. Calendula oil is something that I would highly recommend that you have in your cabinet for many reasons. Both it can be soothing for you to massage on your vulva, and it also has lymphatic properties. So it's going to help move stagnation and any blood circulation that needs to be gently moved out. And then in terms of the womb itself, some women actually really enjoy doing yoni steams. And if you're not familiar with what that is, you're taking a lot of herbs, like 1 to 3 cups of an herb, blend, throwing it in a pot, letting it boil until it starts to steam. And then you're going to take your pot and bring it on the floor or create some fun setup such that you're able to place your vulva, your yoni, to be right above the steam. And you want to like play around to see how much space you want to have between the yoni steam itself and your vulva, because you want the exposure of the heat and the medicinal steam to enter into your vulva, specifically to reach your cervix. That's the most important thing. But you also don't want it to be too hot, because if it's too hot, it'll be irritating, right? So it's all about figuring that out. And oftentimes when we think about various different organs in our body that need that extra support, we often think about taking tea blends to support that organ. But sometimes we forget that that organ wants like a direct connection with the plants, right? So right? Drinking the chai blend is going to be supporting your whole body, and as a consequence and side effect will be supporting your menstrual and reproductive health. But when we're talking about really aiding your yoni particularly, we want your yoni to be touched. We want your yoni to have a direct exposure with the herbs. And I find that a steam blend is really supportive for perineal discomfort and uterine toning and any tears or abrasions that could have happened during the birth. Especially, a lot of women experience cramping, and yoni steaming can be really, really supportive. Or just the actual skin has been ruptured and needs some repair. Steam, it can be like medicinal steam with herbs, can be hugely beneficial.
Oh yeah, I vouch for that. That was something I didn't even have planned, to be honest, to do a yoni steam after I gave birth. I don't know why it wasn't in my plan, but it just felt so right. And I actually used to put my pot in the toilet because I couldn't squat down so low because it was painful.
That
But
makes sense.
it was the right height for me. And I just remember it wasn't just, it was the steam, it was being held, and it was also that time alone without being disturbed. And it reminded me to take care of myself. And it was such an important gift at that time. And also when you were saying about the essential oils and having strong smells and, you know, the baby recognizing you by your smell. I remember when Araya was, she must have been like 6 weeks old. I decided that I was going to get a organic, like only herbal shampoo. Like I treated myself. And so I washed my hair and I come out and she cried for like 30 minutes nonstop. I'd never seen anything like it. And then I realized, because I washed my hair again later on, that it was the shampoo, and it just had very strong essential oils in it. And I was like, okay, this serves me right. And that went in the bin. So it's true, it's real. I experienced it and I was like, what do I do with this crying baby? So yeah,
Totally.
go gentle on them smells. Oof.
Yeah, especially because when you're transitioning into motherhood, there's so many things to buy, right? It could be like a huge financial shift, and everything with essential oils are very expensive. They're not sustainable and they require a lot of plant material. So just not having essential oils, it will save you money. I promise.
Yeah, we've moved so far away from them now. That just highlighted to me how strong they are. I think I took it all for granted because I've been brought up around essential oil, so I wasn't so sensitive. But that was one of the things where Araya is teaching me to go back to nature, because that is too extreme. That is too powerful for me. Like that is too much. It's abusing me. Like, I've got you. So what are some herbs that should be avoided in postpartum?
Before we answer that question, would it be supportive to go into some particular herbs for the steam and like certain particular herbs for uterine toning?
Yeah, please. That'd be
Okay.
great.
So you can easily find a yoni steam for postpartum online, but if you want to make it yourself or you want to buy this as a gift, certain herbs you want to look for and grab are plantain, calendula, marshmallow leaf, rose, chamomile, and yarrow. Yarrow in particular is going to be really cleansing of the blood. But if she's not bleeding much and if she stopped bleeding, you want to avoid yarrow because yarrow can actually stimulate the return of the blood. So you want really gentle and soothing herbs that are not spicy, that don't have a huge pungency to it, but that they are cooling and anti-inflammatory and are going to stimulate the regrowth of the skin wall. So that's for the steaming. And for like uterine toning, then that's when we bring in herbs like raspberry leaf because it's uterine tonic. It's going to enable the uterus to get stronger. Also motherwort, which is a very bitter herb. So you'll probably want to consume it in an elixir form because it tastes really, really bitter. Or red clover. Red clover is an herb that's quite easy to access. It's a weed over in a lot of places in the world, and it can be really supportive as a tea or a tincture or an oxymel, like really in a lot of different contexts. It's gentle, and so if you're feeling called to red clover, I also recommend that. Yeah.
Red clover has been one of my allies for some time. I actually, since arriving in the UK, I've been really drawn to red clover. We just got some more in. So there's ones that I come across and I'm just like, yes, like marshmallow root, I felt so connected to in postpartum. I'd never had it, never worked with it before, but it just came and I was like, I don't know what it is. I love it.
No, it's like your whole being is different, right? So there's an aspect of this where you can plan, but I hold the awareness that who she will be when she releases the baby is going to be a different woman, and she's going to feel called to certain things. So sometimes it's best to wait until after she gives birth to then discern like what herbs will be most supportive.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, actually, of like not just presuming because she loved having a certain type of tea before, it's probably not going to be the same. So keep that conscious communication open. How can I serve you today? What would you like? And I also think that's, again, just offering this space for the mother to remember that she does know if she just asks her body, and it will all come through. Come on then, if you want to come in, you can come in. Come on then. Oh, there was another question down before we jump onto that one about lactation support. So is there any herbs that can support lactation?
Yes. So when we talk about lactation, we want herbs that are going to be stimulating the production of healthy milk, right? And I want to first state that healthy milk, first and foremost, comes from a nourished mother. You need to be eating 3 meals a day with ample amounts of fat and protein. We've all been told as women that like too much protein is for workout builders and a lot of fat is for fat people, and that is just so far from truth when it comes to female nourishment. So first and foremost, please, I know it's hard to eat, especially postpartum. It's super hard to make meals for yourself. Ask people to deliver food. Ask people to pick up the milk and the avocados and to make the meals for you so that you don't have to think about nourishing the food yourself with food. But certain herbs that are particularly supportive for milk production and lactation are fennel or fenugreek, nettle as well, and marshmallow root as well, and anise seed, rose hips, because you want to have high levels of vitamin C that support the creation of the milk, and lemon balm can be a source of anxiety and stress relief for you that will actually bring on to the baby and pass on. Remember, everything that the mother is consuming is going to be supportive to the baby as well, because if they're drinking your milk. And when it comes to lactation, you want those herbs to be high in nutrition, right? That's why we said like raspberry leaf and nettle and rose hips, but also you want it to be in a tea form, right? Instead of a tincture form, because you receive the nutrients and the vitamins of herbs, particularly from teas and not from tinctures. Tinctures do not extract the nutrient part of the herb, but rather different medicinal constituents. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I've been curious about that. So it's better, in your opinion, to have it through the herbs at this time to get everything from it.
If what you're wanting is specifically lactation support, you want to be extracting the minerals, yes, the tea. But in contrast, if you're having like pain in your uterus, or like you're really feeling like your pelvic floor is like out of wonk, and you're really feeling called to work on motherwort, and maybe the process of being pregnant is stimulating a grief or a connection with your own mother and your mother wound, then motherwort would be a context of taking that in tincture form, right? So different plants want to be used in different ways.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that come through my mind. Like, 'cause I'm like doing flashbacks, to my postpartum phase and what I've learned since then and what I wish I knew. But at the same time, like you were saying in the beginning, it's we can make do with what we've got as well. Like wherever we are, there's always things around us, and the plants will come to us at the right time. And these conversations will offer that thread as well to get more and more information. So where were we? Any on the conversation front? Is there anything that you feel that you've noticed if you've been around postpartum mothers or working with them? Is there been anything in particular that have, even though they might not be herbs that are said not for mothers, but they just don't seem to, mothers don't seem to like merge with this plant for some reason? Is there anything like that?
You know, the first thing that's coming to me is thinking about like postpartum depression and thinking about how unfortunately common it is for that shift in your serotonin to really impact your mood. And just a little disclaimer that if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. And that like thousands of women around the world are also feeling isolated in their motherhood. And if you are using SSRIs or any drugs that are prescribed for your mental health, then St. John's wort is like a #1 plant that you want to make sure to not interact with. Specifically internally, like in a tincture form, you can use St. John's wort topically as an oil, and sometimes the birth experience creates nerve damages for women, especially in the back. And if that's the case, then St. John's wort oil is like an ally that you want. But as a tincture for mental health support, you do not want that. And I would argue that the herbs that women don't feel like a calling towards are typically herbs that are not from their own region. I think that women feel a calling to explore herbs that can grow literally within their own country. And sometimes we just love the flavor of something so much that we still feel an affinity towards it, right? Like I decided to make a vanilla rose tallow lip balm. Vanilla bean does not grow in Colorado. It's one of the only herbs that I source that's like from Mexico. It's far away. And yet I feel such an affinity towards it. But most of the time, the herbs that I really want the most are herbs that are holding me energetically because they're literally outside my home. So that's what I would say. And I don't want to make more of a generalization because each woman's experience is so unique. But in terms of like what herbs should be avoided, especially in the first like 40 to 60 days, you should avoid emmenagogue herbs. Emmenagogue herbs are herbs that stimulate the menstruation, stimulate the release of the blood. You might be thinking to yourself, why? Like after I release the baby, I want my period to come back. So wouldn't I want those herbs? And the truth is that if your period is not coming back and it's already been like a year and a half, then that's the time where you should go to a local herbalist that you trust and feel safe with to bring on your bleed again. But especially in the first like 4 to 6 months, you want your body to be really on its own, recalibrating and returning to a new normal, not returning to what was, but creating a totally new process of your menstrual health. I mean, your hormones are completely shifting. And if you were to invite in an emmenagogue and like kind of force that process, it might cause not long-term, but just for the next few months, some issues with how your menstrual process and how your hormones feel. So my like biggest advice is to avoid those emmenagogue herbs. And those are like donkai, yarrow, angelica, Queen Anne's lace, rue, pennyroyal. Those are some herbs that a lot of people know of for their emmenagogue properties. Also, blue vervain can also be an emmenagogue. And if you're going to receive something that has those herbs in it, just be really mindful of not taking it daily. And like, for example, yarrow, maybe you want yarrow in a steam, but don't do yoni steaming daily. First, I mean, in general, never do yoni steaming daily. That's like a once a week activity, but you really want to be cautious with herbs that have those emmenagogue properties.
Oh, thank you for adding that in. And I think this is just the opening for, you give some amazing herbs that is a great start for anyone that's listening to this, wanting to start to support mothers. And also if you make a small, like a blend of just 1 or 2 herbs for a mother, you can get to know them. Just find out, do a quick Google search, and you'll be able to see the properties in there. And if there's any questions, then there's many places to go, like yourself, to figure out, well, I'm really curious about this, or I'm a bit concerned, because it can seem like there's a lot of information out there, and it can feel sometimes that, well, I'm afraid that if I do the wrong thing or give the wrong thing. And so I think it is that beginning of learning to, one, communicate with plants, listen to them, learn about them, and also listen to yourself. So it's a beautiful journey, and one that we can take nice and slow. We don't have to know everything straight away. And I always feel that when I'm introducing a different plant, I get to know it, and then I never forget, because I'll have this connection for a while and I'll understand it more deeply. And then maybe I'll introduce something else later, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay with that one. But it is this beautiful journey. And I think it makes this, it brings about this feeling of witchcraft almost, when you get the plants out and you make some herbal tea. Like, I love it when my friends come around, or if I visit my family and I start to make this blend, I feel like magic. I feel like I'm magic. It really wakes up my inner child. So if you don't feel like that and you're listening to it, that's okay. That is my experience. But
totally. And that's why sometimes for some people, the process of creating those things can just evoke like stress and perfectionism. So that's the context of just like finding an herbalist that you trust and love their stuff, or love them to support, or go to a local apothecary.
Yes. Yeah. Go get some new friends. They're out there. They love herbs. So thank you so much for all this information, Jay. And I'd love for you to share where we can find you, what you have to offer, what you're up to.
Yeah. So my name is Jay, and I have my own herbal medicine line called Plant Healing Woman. You can find it on planthealingwoman.com. And I have lots and lots and lots of herbal medicines that I offer, including the herbal chai that I mentioned, and the St. John's wort oil, and calendula oil, and all my stuff is essential oil free, so it's safe to be used topically for anybody. And my herbal line runs on a shop update model, so it's open once a month, and it's going to be opening on February 2nd. So if you want to support my work, you can go to my website, join the mailing list. You'll be notified of when the shop opens, and you can place the order. That's how I spend most of my time, is making 27 different medicines and keeping them in stock and shipping them to people around the world. And I also am an abortion doula, so I support women with releasing babies that actually don't feel like the right time to come through the world. So if you ever need somebody that can support you during that really important time, you could also reach out to me for that type of support. And yeah, that's my work.
Well, we might have to get you back on to talk about that for the next season. Thank you for the work you're doing, honestly, showing up, supporting this new way of living, remembering it all. Thank you, Jay, for everything.